Hello, my name is Claire Poppy, and today I have the honor of introducing you to a truly amazing and intriguing man named Joe Petroski. I am so excited to introduce Joe to you all, along with his amazing gift of healing. I personally met Joe 3 years ago when I was very sick with an illness that was devastating for me and my family. Thankfully, through that meeting, I have experienced complete healing, and my life has been changed and touched in ways that I never imagined to be possible. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Petroski. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Claire. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk with me today and answer some questions that I believe a lot of people may have heard about you and your work as an intuitive medical and energy healer.
Thanks. I look forward to it.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start off, and I know this is a very complex question, but can you briefly explain to me what a medical intuitive or energy healer is?
We all have intuition, and a medical intuitive or an intuitive healer basically has a little bit better, a much better gift at it. It's basically kind of like anybody can play the piano, but would you really like them to play at Christmas or play at a concert? Would you listen to them? We all can play basketball or football, but are you Michael Jordan or, Aaron Rodgers, that kind of thing. And so the gift that I've been given is I actually can look and I can see and feel inside of a person's body. And I always set out the prayer and the intention to see what I see, hear what I see what I need to see, feel what I need to feel, and hear what I need to hear, and then only say the words that the client needs to hear. And as I do that, then I can see, hear, and feel what's going on in the body.
Wow, that's amazing. So how and when did you come to be a medical intuitive? Like, were you born and you just knew you had this gift, or did someone teach you, or how does this happen?
I may have been born with it, but I honestly don't know because when I was a little boy, most of anything that I thought or felt was pretty much discouraged. So I honestly don't know that. But when I was in my 30s, I had a very, very unusual illness, and I was sick for a many number of years, and extraordinarily ill for over 6.5 years. 3 of that, I was not able to work at all. I was disabled by Social Security. 2 of that, I was on oxygen, or almost 2 years, I was on oxygen for supplemental non-contaminated air. And it was during that time that I sought out all kinds of different healings. The doctors actually sent me away to die because they were afraid that if they treated me further, they might actually hasten my death. And I met this fella, and when I went to him, he was able to get rid of one of my pains instantaneously. And then he looked at me and says, "Well, you can do this too." And I looked and I said, "Well, I don't know about that." I says, "You're a quantum physics engineer, a chiropractor, a homeopathic practitioner, and I fix houses." And but I studied and trained with him, and that is when I found out that I had the gift. And then after studying and training with him, then I went further on, and I sat with Native Americans and other healers to learn more and discover my gift.
Wow. Very cool. So, was this man, did he just seem like a normal guy to you too, or did you know that he had a gift when you first met him?
When I saw him, it was extraordinary. He was working on people that I knew. It's something when you have a chronic illness for a very long time, you end up seeing people in doctors' offices over the years. But then also I was in a support group for people with chronic illnesses, and there was a place that offered free services for people. And so I saw many of these people go up on the stage. He actually worked on these people, some that were my friends, and he would either lessen their illness or sometimes they walked off and they were completely healthy, which was incredibly baffling. And that was why when he was able to do what he did with me, I was astonished. It was like, okay, really, me? And he was a world-renowned martial arts fighter for very many years. And then he decided that he wanted to help people. He wanted to help them heal instead of become sick. Excuse me a second. I'm having some background noise. I didn't know this was really a recording, so I apologize about that.
That's okay. So. We'll move on. I know that that's how I felt when I first talked to you, Joe. And just to kind of give everyone watching this, what type of conditions or health challenges can you help people with?
It really depends. Every single thing is energy. Everything is. And so as we address the energy, everything is changeable, but it really, really depends on the person, okay? The client plays an incredibly important role in this. They don't need to believe in me. They don't need to believe in the technique, but they need to know that somehow, some way that things can get better. If they really believe that they're screwed or that they're completely out of luck that kind of thing. Then just like Henry Ford says, if you think you can do a thing or you think you cannot do a thing, you are correct. And so if they really, really feel that they're out of luck, that might be the case. But I've seen people that are hesitant and it's like, oh, I've tried everything under the sun and nothing's worked. That kind of person, as long as they still have some kind of hope, then we can get into it. But there are some people that are stuck with the illness because it's their belief, or there's such a secondary gain that the illness has helped them with so many things, and they're a very difficult person to work with.
So I know the answer to this, but do you have to be with a client in person for a session, or how do you go about doing that?
No, I would say, currently, I would say about 99% of my clients, or 99% of my sessions are all over the phone. There's many of them that I've never seen. I don't know what they look like. The only thing that I can do is I can hear them on the phone. And so if we were together and we had our hand touching, this is my hand, this is your hand, at the level of the atom, at the atomic microscope, there would be no way to determine where your hand ends and where my hand begins. Okay? And so if we can't determine it if we're touching, well, then when there's the distance in between us, it's the same thing. Because energy is energy, and we just tap into it, we listen to it, and we feel it, and we can see it. And a lot of times, quite honestly, it's easier because the client is just sitting there on the phone, not looking at anything, not thinking on anything, just staring out the window, whatever. And it's a very relaxing process, and it's amazing the changes that can happen.
Yeah, definitely. So while you're working with a client, how exactly do you receive the information that you get? So, like, if someone has a pain in their knee and they didn't even tell you that, like, do you see their actual knee, or do you see, like, a color? Or how do you get the images, and how do you know what's wrong with somebody?
Well, this is the thing where what's happening is way beyond me, okay? And so when I look at people, there's times that I look and I can see it just like if we did a dissection, okay? There's times where I can feel it. There's times where when I'm looking, I can sense and I can feel how bloated somebody is, or I can feel the pain that they're in. And literally, I just set out the intentions. Like I ask, it's like, okay, what do I need to see or feel? For example, I had a fella and I was working with him, and he says, I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to this. And he was very, very adamant about it. And I said, just relax. I said, what your body wants me to pay attention to is this. Well, I want you to pay attention to this. I said, I understand that. As we pay attention to this, and I asked him to give me, I said, just give me about 6 or 7 minutes. And so as I paid attention to what I needed to pay attention to, what the body wanted me to pay attention to, all of a sudden it changed on him. And in fact, it was a knee issue. It was a knee issue and a hip issue that he wanted. But when I was led, what was happening is there was issues in his back and there was issues in his heart. Okay. To give you another example, there was a professional football player, John Williams. He's on one of my YouTube testimonials. Joe Petroski, it's Petroski. And if you go into YouTube, you can see my channel. And John played for the Baltimore Colts and the Los Angeles Rams, which is years ago, 34 years ago. Well, John had problems with his knee, his hip, his shoulder, and his elbow. Okay. And that's what he had complained about to me. John never told me that he had heart issues. And as we worked to get rid of his pain in his knee and his hip and his shoulder and all that, what ended up happening is, as a complete side note, and I never went to it to work on it specifically, his heart output increased from 25% to over 63%, and that's according to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Okay, and John talks about that in his testimonial. And so when it's kind of like a mobile over a child's bed or a crib. When you touch the cow, the moon moves. When you touch the moon, the spoon moves. And so every single thing in a person's body is related. And as we work on one, it all changes. When we work on the physical, the emotion changes. When we work on the emotion, the physical changes. And so it's a very, very comprehensive way to work with the person.
Yeah, so since this is all energy work, when you work with somebody, a person would never feel pain or hurt or anything like that. I know from my experience, sometimes I'll feel a tingling sensation or, maybe warmth, or I'll feel, I feel something in my heart or something, but I've never ever felt a pain. Is that pretty true?
Yeah, most of the time. There's times when people have significant pain, and all of a sudden they'll say, it feels worse or it feels more intense. And that's on occasion that it does. And there's typically very, very good reasons for that. But since I'm not touching them, they're not moving in a contorted way. There's no way that it can actually get worse. Okay, and so the sensations that they do feel as it changes, it is leading up to the release. And so yeah, people do feel. They'll feel the tingling, they'll feel the hot, the cool, or they'll feel nothing, and then all of a sudden things will change.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So after a client has had a session with you, how do they maintain the work that you've done for them? Are there things they need to do, or do they need to keep talking to you so often, or how do they maintain all of the energy work that you've completed?
A lot of my sessions, very, very many of my sessions are 1 or 2 sessions if they're dealing with simple pain or illness. Oftentimes that's it. I'll work with people. There was a fellow that was in a very, very severe motorcycle accident 7 years before I met him, and he was in constant pain so bad that they had Demerol in the fridge, and if his pain was that bad, his wife would have to give him a shot. And we worked on him once, and after working on him once, I've never ever, and I've seen him. When I lived in St. Paul, I would run into him on the streets. His wife was my bank teller. And so she could have easily said, hey, we need to have him come in, or what's wrong. He never needed to come back. One session and it was completely done. There are other times, though, where there's more significant issues, and that's why I changed how I work. Because what it is, yeah, you can have these fabulous, incredible healings, but is your emotional life better? Is your spiritual life better? Are you feeling, much, much better, more at ease and such? And that's something I spent 7 months of last year, 2012, praying and meditating to find out a way that I could work differently with clients. And currently what I do is I have it called True Freedom U, and you can go to truefreedomu.com, and it tells you about the program. And what I do is I work with people for 12 weeks, every single Monday through Friday, and spend time with them. And it's amazing, absolutely amazing, the changes that people have in their mind, in their intuition, in their inner strength, professionally, with relations. It's just amazing. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, well, and actually, I'm a member of True Freedom U, and it's amazing how I'm in Minnesota, Joe's in Florida, and we have people in our group from all over the world, even different countries, that we all talk to every Thursday night. We have a Skype session, and it's incredible how, people who have all worked with you come together and just totally our energies come together, and we all help each other, because most of us are pretty well on our way. You've worked with us, and most of our issues are resolved, and we're happy and healthy, and the fact that you can have a support group like that and work with people is amazing. So I highly suggest that everyone checks it out, whether they just want to do True Freedom U or they just want to have a session. I think it's a really, really great thing. So if people do want to set up a session with you, Joe, how would the best way for them to go about doing that? Do you have a website, or?
They can email me at joe@truefreedom, and then the letter u.com, or they can give me a call, 651-755-6027. Again, 651-755-6027.
Okay. Well, Joe, I thank you for your time today, and I encourage everyone watching this video to give Joe a call if needed, or spread the word about him to anyone you know that either has a pain, wants to increase their, vertical jump for a sporting team, or just really any issue in their life. Joe Petroski gave me my life back, and he can change yours too. So thank you, Joe, for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Thanks.
Yes. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.